Welcome back to the Stormcast, everybody. My name is Ellie Hochberg, and this is the podcast where we talk all things TABC sports. I'm here with Oren Glickman, and our producer Noah Kessler is going to host alongside us today. Oren, Noah, how you guys doing?
It was a great night. Fantastic.
Thank you for having me.
If you were recording this right after TABC dominated Frisch, and we have a very special interview today with Tani, Stein, and Sammy Haberman, two stars of the JV basketball team. We will cut to there right now. We're here with two of the stars of the JV basketball team, Tani Stein and Sammy Haberman, and we're going to do an interview with them. First question, obviously big win against Hillel this past week. What contributed to your guys' success?
I don't know, probably like playing as a team, to be honest. Like we did very good passing, like communicating on defense, boxing out. Our coach is big on that.
Yeah, I think we boxed out like really well. We were hitting our shots at the end where it mattered the most, and yeah, we played good defense.
So I don't think a lot of guys were paying attention to this team going into the season. I think there was a lot of talk surrounding Frisch, SAR, Ramaz, but now I think you guys are starting to generate a little bit of chatter among the league. You're the only unbeaten team left. You recently won a tournament over the Thanksgiving weekend. What's it like having that? What's it like getting that attention now, and maybe like a little bit of curiosity from your opponents around the league?
You want this one, Tani?
What?
You want this one?
You got it.
I mean, like everybody doubted us coming into the season, but like we're just proving them wrong. Like we're gonna win the ship, and that's that.
People said like we're gonna have like 2 wins, like going into the season like we're like terrible, but, like just proved everyone wrong. 4-0.
Yeah.
To finish it.
So we have obviously you guys 4-0, but there's a really tough part of the schedule coming up. You guys are playing back-to-back games at SAR, Ramaz, back-to-back games at Frisch, all teams that OGA just mentioned as teams that were really had buzz going into the season, and then JEC were not too shabby themselves. What do you guys think you guys could do? Really take from this stretch of this 4-game win streak and the tournament win at Joe Rush, and extrapolate it to these games.
All right,
like we
go first.
I'm like we practice, we put in our work, and when the time comes, we're gonna beat them, and that's that.
I like the confidence.
The next 4-5 games are gonna be tough, but I think we could win them all. We're a good team.
Do you think it's benefited you guys the fact that you're in a little bit of in a rhythm now, going into this swing as opposed to playing these stronger teams, in October, November?
Yeah, I feel like we have like that confidence right now. That
We got that momentum.
we got that momentum.
So Sammy, talk to me about playing with these freshmen. Tani, Ezra Adams is another one. People always are curious about 8th graders going into their freshman year and translating to the faster, quicker pace of the high school level. But you really couldn't tell that these guys are freshmen out of the gate. What's it been like playing with them, adjusting with them? What are your thoughts overall?
I mean, like, so obviously the transition from a 8th grade to a freshman is very hard. I feel like a big part of our team is that our freshmen were able to do a really good job at transitioning, especially like you named before, like Tani, Adams, also Nice. And like even for next year, like our coaches developing the freshmen that maybe don't get as much time now. So next year they could really like flourish into their role.
And Tani, what do you think it's been like as a freshman? Like who has taken like a leadership role in this team? Who has really like impressed you as a sophomore and really shown their experience and helped the freshmen out?
Our captain right here, Sammy Haberman. He helped me out a lot. He's a good captain. He's a good leader. He leads us very well. And yeah.
Well, thank you so much.
Yeah, and I guess lastly, what are your expectations next week as you guys head into that first big test against the SAR Sting, who happen to be last year's JV champions?
I mean, obviously our expectations are to win. Hopefully we could play up to our potential and definitely beat them, but nothing's promised. So
yeah, they're a good team. Like hopefully our shots will fall, box out, play good defense, and hopefully we have the win.
Well,
Any
you guys,
shout outs you guys want to give the people here on the Stormcast?
Shout out to our coaches. They're really good coaches, really helping us get through these dubs.
Shout out to Ellie Hochberg for putting this entire thing together.
And Haley
By the
Osberg.
way.
oh, thank you guys so
And
much.
OG. And OG.
Of
Yeah, you
course.
can't forget about
OG is the
OG. Put
man.
everything
OG is the
together. It's
man.
like director.
Thank you guys so much for joining us. You guys have had a really impressive start to the season. You guys especially in that Hillel game, you guys combined for over 30 points, along with Ezra Adams, almost 50. You guys really impressed, and we look forward to watching you guys, especially in this tough stretch of games. Thank you so much for joining.
Thank you for having us.
And so, as we just discussed, this team just came off a big show rush tournament victory. I unfortunately was unable to go, but they won. They dominated a lot. They beat Heichal, a good team, by 30 in the championship. But Oren, I believe you were at the games, correct? And what could you tell us about what impressed you in the tournament?
Well, what was actually interesting is that they played all their games in the hockey gym. The JV tournament was in the hockey gym, and the varsity tournament was in the basketball gym. Our varsity was not invited to participate in this tournament. But still, it's definitely something to be proud of. It's going to give them a lot of swagger as they head into this critical stretch in the season. In my opinion, I just think they needed something like this, and it didn't start too well. They got embarrassed in that first game against JEC, and then they went perfect the rest of the way. They had to win 2 games on Sunday just to get to the championship game. And Heichal, who they actually scrimmaged in the very, very, very beginning of the year, it was only the second week of school. That seemed to be a little bit of a back and forth, even though they weren't keeping official score. But I think Sammy Haberman hit a 3 less than 10 seconds into the game, and that kind of set the tone. He was shooting lights out. Zach Hilo was a force in the paint, and we were just running circles around them at one point. So a great tournament win. And we're looking forward to a great second half of the season now, starting with a critical road game against SAR this Tuesday night.
And just a note to our listeners, the Shores tournament is hosted at TABC. There was 3 Yeshiva League teams, I believe, and 3 not Yeshiva League teams, if I'm correct. Is that correct, Oren?
In the JV tournament, it was just JV.
JV.
Yeah, in JV was just JEC and TABC, and in the varsity tournament, it was just MTA and JEC.
Oh, so sorry, two Yeshiva League teams, 4 non-Yeshiva League teams. So although a lot of teams they were unfamiliar with, a lot of teams that are more come from other schools that do not participate in the Yeshiva League, they were still able to win a lot.
Why was TABC not in the varsity championship or varsity tournament?
People were asking me questions about the tournament throughout the weekend because it was hosted by TABC. But as I told people, we're just guests, and we were very honored to accept the invitation for the JV tournament. As for the varsity tournament, they felt like the field wouldn't have been fair if our varsity team was put into the ring. So we respected their wishes, and it's fine. Our varsity team got to compete in other tournaments, such as Memphis and, God willing, Sarachek in March.
And it kind of goes into what we were saying in the interview, that what Sammy you were saying. This JV team is not, obviously. I don't think anyone would say they're as good as this varsity team, obviously, but they certainly did not have as high expectations. So especially this varsity team, the JV team didn't really have as many expectations. But the varsity team is considered the upper echelon of the Yeshiva League. So it would seem a little unfair for them to compete against a tournament that is largely non-Yeshiva League. While this TBC JV team, of course, they won. I don't think they were largely viewed as one of the favorites to win the Yeshiva to win the title in the JV field.
They're young. They're really young. They don't really have an identity. They're kind of an unknown, and that could be to your benefit. But I think at this point, everyone is starting to realize that Ezra Adams is possibly the best freshman in the entire Yeshiva League.
Exactly, and we just had Tani Stein. We're talking about the Hillel game where
he's getting better and better.
He's a TBC. Hillel was probably their first real test of the year. Hillel, obviously, Hillel, of course, good team, but not, I would not say upper echelon of the league. Really, their first test of the year.
But they beat Frisch after they lost to TABC.
Yeah, exactly.
Anybody can beat anybody.
Exactly. That's the thing. And they really looked they outplayed Hillel. It really felt that way. Final score, they won by 15. Tani Stein really impressed. Sam Haberman impressed. Ezra Adams impressed. Oren, if no, you want to comment? What takeaways do you have from this game?
I mean, it feels like that's having the hype that Isaac Stemner had last year. You know, obviously Isaac Stemner, people were saying that he was maybe the best in JV last year. I mean, SAR had a few good guys last year. Stemner is definitely up there. I think Adams is in that argument now.
He's becoming a very valuable sixth man for this team. Listen, 4 out of their next 5 games are against Frisch and SAR. So while the spirits are great right now with this team, they can't take anything for granted as they head into this stretch.
Yeah, and this is where you define who you are. These games, and now they're going to be played on TABC TV for the first time. So a lot of pressure now.
Well, not Tuesday, but
no, the home games.
Right, the home games, correct.
And am I correct? They have a big JV doubleheader coming up against Frisch.
Well, the JV hockey, and the JV basketball.
Yeah, JV doubleheader.
Right, on the 23rd. We'll see. Hopefully that game will still have meaning for the JV hockey team.
We'll get there later, of course. But and so one other player that has impressed me is Josh Neese. Josh Neese, obviously, we haven't talked about him that much, but really facilitates a lot. Scored a few points of himself.
He brings a sense of calm to the offense, if that makes sense.
Exactly.
And something that's actually plagued TABC basketball for the last couple of years is having a natural point guard. And if Josh Neese continues to develop this way by senior year, he's really gonna, bring a lot of value to this program.
And just something that we were discussing in the interview, just as a final note, we have those we have a lot of big stretch coming up. SAR doubleheader at SAR. That's going to be doubleheader basketball, as we'll talk about in a second. They're lost.
And they meet SAR at TABC a week later.
And then exactly a week later, almost 24, almost like a week, like 7 times 24 on the dot. 15 minutes later on the next Tuesday, SAR is playing at TABC, and then Ramaz at TABC. This Ramaz team, good, as you mentioned. TABC is going to go at Frisch, as you mentioned, the doubleheader. Again, this week, really the only game this week is at SAR. We'll discuss more hopefully next week. But the week after that, they have 3 games, as I mentioned, at SAR, at TABC, Ramaz at TABC, TABC at Frisch. And then right before Yeshiva week, right before finals, Frisch is coming to TABC.
It's a varsity hockey game the night of the Ramaz JV game, right?
So the 19th is
I believe that student activities are doing their big winter classic because 3 of the 4 major programs will be competing that night.
Exactly, and all are playing good teams.
JV hockey's playing too? Who's JV hockey playing?
No, 3 of the 4. So both varsity teams and the JV basketball team.
JV basketball
and the wrestling team.
Ramaz at TABC for both JV and varsity basketball, and then varsity varsity hockey versus DRS, which is obviously going to be a massive game. But any final notes for JV basketball, Oren? Nope.
No, I think we covered everything. I think the team is really overachieving right now, and hopefully they'll continue to overachieve.
Yeah. Nope. Any last notes or?
Nah, nothing at all.
Okay. So moving on to varsity basketball. This team has played 3 games in the past week since last Wednesday. They have played Hillel, got a win there on doubleheader, won by 10. They played Ramaz in a nail biter on Tuesday night, won by 4. And then the next night, they lost by 4 to SAR. So a lot happening. Oren, do you have any takeaways from each specific game? Hillel, again, was a while ago, but any takeaways from that Hillel game, Ramaz, or SAR games?
Well, the Hillel game, that's when Ayal really, really took it to him.
Yeah, I was waiting for you to say that. That was
a beastly performance, and that's something we need from him game in, game out. The Ramaz game was gritty. It's always hard to beat Ramaz on the road at the Ram Dome, but glad we came out with the dub there. And SAR was a setback, but only a minor setback. And obviously the guys were really devastated after last night. The undefeated season is over, but I think it could be a blessing in disguise for all we know. The pressures of being undefeated go away, And before you know it, they'll be playing SAR again in 5 days from now. So it's a quick opportunity for a turnaround.
Yeah, exactly. And as you mentioned, against Hillel, Ayal Kidnalair just absolutely dominated. 22 points, 23 rebounds. One of the most dominating Shiv League performances I have seen in my life. Really, as you mentioned, came into his own. Obviously, Ayal Kidnalair has been great, but really we have not seen him dominate to this extent that as he dominated last Wednesday night. Against Ramaz, TBC went down early. And it really just shows their resilience that they were able to come back. I don't know if you have the
They're down
stats.
by 6 at halftime, and then they outscored them by 14 in the third quarter.
Exactly, they were up by 11. It was quite the incredible comeback.
Yeah,
of course, they only won by 4, but one of those is a garbage time 3. They were up by 7 until
right. Faber kind of iced the game with a 3 in the corner, and David Sachs hit some clutch free throws.
And on a very similar note, TMC lost by 4, also really lost by 7.
Garbage time Yona Mandel 3 at the buzzer when it was already too little too late.
And the similarities between these games is uncanny. Both lost by 4. Obviously, TMC won 1, lost 1. They were down by 6 at halftime in both games. And SAR, as you mentioned, of course, devastating. SAR, but you have to remember, SAR is really in the upper level of this league. This league is, I think, a three horse race. SAR, TBC, DRS are 3 at the top. Probably a few more teams, obviously good. MDY is good. A few other teams are obviously good. Frisch good. But those are, I think, in my opinion, 3 top dogs. SAR are one of them. If we were able to play them close, we had a lead at a point. But I believe there's 3 key factors to the reason we lost this game. One, Ayal got in foul trouble early. He had 2 fouls. 2 minutes into the second quarter, he already had 2 fouls. He didn't nearly sit the whole second quarter, and we were down by 6. Like, it didn't feel like we're playing so poorly in the first half, at least in my humble opinion. But Ayala being in foul trouble really hurt us. And then 2 and 3, we have 2 stars in 2 really good players, and Yona Mandel and David Sachs. We know their capabilities against, I believe it was either, I think it was Hillel or Flatbush, where they missed like 2 shots combined. They're truly incredible players, and they did not have the best performances.
I wouldn't hold that against them. Obviously, Yona Mandel just coming back from Israel, playing the second game of back-to-back on the jet lag. So, like,
as you said,
right.
Yona Mandel just arrived after playing from Israel. David Sachs, again, it's hard to win these days. This is a back-to-back. It's hard, and of course, David Sachs is a great.
I would add, though, putting Yona's flight to the side. They actually played Ramaz SAR last year in a back-to-back. It was the other way around, though. They hosted SAR first, and then they went to Ramaz the following night, and they came out on top in both games. I know a lot of people like to read into the back-to-back. We have to stop coddling, these guys. Yeah, they're not professionals, but back-to-backs are happen more often than you think. In my opinion, I don't think it had anything to do with that in the loss last night. I think it just goes to what Coach Oz said last night in the locker room. It's elementary school mental mistakes with costly turnovers at costly points in the game.
Yeah, but
exactly.
I think Mandel being jet lag has someone.
Oh yeah, it could definitely. Hopefully, he's getting a great night of sleep tonight.
I was on the call tonight for the Frisch game.
Right, right. But everyone got to leave after the second period.
Exactly.
And then they got to listen to me and Hawk in the third period.
As we'll get to soon. But again, this team, as you mentioned, it could be a blessing in disguise. This team has a lot of pressure on them. Again, just want to mention Halpert, really just an incredible player for SAR.
Best junior in the league, in my opinion.
Yeah, 14 and 12. He and Ayala were going back and forth. Incredibly similar stat lines. Ayala 14.
Also, that 2, as time expired right before halftime, it made it a 6-point game instead of a 4-point game.
Oh yeah, that was massive. Exactly.
Shot, yeah.
So the point I'm just gonna make is that, as you made, this could turn out to be a blessing in disguise. And this again, this is another winnable game, but. As I heard Coach Oz say on the phone with you last night, every time TBC loses the game, the second time, we say it's a good loss, as what happened against DRS. It was a good loss. We lost by 1. How many times can you say it's a good loss until a loss is a loss? Again, this is another winnable game. Again, it doesn't does it hurt as the worst thing in the world? No, it's a regular season game. It might be a blessing in disguise. But if this happened in the playoffs, that would be devastating.
Yeah, it's a time will tell kind of thing, and I guess we'll find out next week if it was good that this SAR rematch was only a few short days later, or did they need more time to prepare for a rematch against SAR? We'll find out.
Yeah, so just to give a little preview of the next few games, they're playing at Ori Yisrael on Sunday. Or of course, every team is hard game, but should be pretty easily winnable game. And
Also,
then
shout out to former TABC man Ezra Stern, who's been killing it for Orr.
Yeah, I think he dropped 20 something the other night.
Yeah, he's their top scorer.
Yeah. Then they're playing at SAR, as we previously mentioned, rematch. And then next Monday, 10 days, Frisch is coming to TABC, which would be a good game. Get to see Isaac Stettner, sophomore. Is he the only sophomore starting? You would know better than me, Oren.
Yeah, I think a lot of people were thinking last year, like, oh, it's a shame we're because I think people assumed that Steppner would stay on JV. Oh, it's a shame we're never going to get to see Steppner go up against Kinderlayer. Well, ladies and gentlemen, you're going to see it.
Exactly. So I think that will really wrap it up for varsity basketball. Any last notes, guys?
No. Listen, a minor bump in the road. It was not a good night last night, but by the time we record our next episode, it could be a change of events.
Exactly, and we see this team could play against the top teams in the league. They beat Ramaz, they beat Hillel. This team is good enough to win a championship.
One last note: good teams find good ways to win, and bad teams find bad ways to lose. And I think
that was it last night. Yeah.
What?
I think that was it last night against SAR. Not necessarily that SAR won. I think more the TABC lost.
Why are you discrediting SAR? I thought SAR played a great game, but I think the Ramaz game, I think the good team found a good way to win.
Yeah, I'm not disagreeing with you. I think SAR was clearly the better team, but I think the main reason why TABC lost that game last night was because of mental mistakes of their own.
Yeah, I completely agree.
For example, we were down by 3 with an opportunity to tie the game, and then Dax loses the ball, and then on the other end, SAR get an and 1 to effectively put the game on ice. You look back at the little moments like that.
Yeah, and if I'm in the TABC locker room right now, I'm probably coming away from that saying that if we clean everything up, I think we're the better. I think TABC is the better team. I think they could beat SAR, but they have to clean everything up first.
Exactly. That's the key thing against DRS. The main thing, clean everything up. We need, and the other thing is we need Ayal cannot do everything, and that's what happened. That's what happened last night. Really, Ayal had to go to the bench for a while.
They had to play smaller.
David and Yona were unable to capitalize. Yona got hot in the fourth quarter at the end of the fourth quarter, but it was too little, too late. Those are the two real keys for this team.
OG, who do you think Bention Kaiser means more to, the basketball team or the hockey team?
The reason why I'm not going to touch that is because one of the coaches is probably going to tune into this podcast and is going to be like, I can't believe you said that. So I'm not touching that.
I may or may not have answered that question on TFC TV.
Not touching it.
But you have a little more of an official job. Of course, Bention is great.
Yeah, and I want my coaches to continue to respect me, so I'm not touching it.
Exactly, and Ben obviously incredible on both teams. I don't think anyone's going to discredit that, even if I may or may not have answered that question tonight. But regardless, moving on to JV hockey.
People have been telling me that not to write another article.
Nah, Oren has been the loudest voice.
Hopefully you don't have the typewriter ready. There's still time to right the ship here.
It's getting ugly early.
So no games have been played in the past week, but this week is a massive week to say that.
No, they played the first game.
Is that this week?
That was before Thanksgiving break.
Yeah, I think we recorded that already.
Yeah, we recorded the day after.
Yeah. So no games were played this week, and honestly, I think it might have been a good thing. Give the team a little break. Give time to reset, rethink things. Maybe give a Dean Cattler some time to heal up. He's out of the boot. Saw him playing basketball a little bit. No pressure, obviously. But 3, really just a preview here. Mote Shabbos, massive game. DRS at TABC. And just
I will
give
be
a little-
announcing. I'll be announcing with my fellow podcaster on Between the Bases, Moshe Bayowitz. So make sure you tune in.
Just to give a little, show how important these games are. The TBC team needs to win probably 5 out of 6 in order to have a realistic shot at making the playoffs. And that's hard. Again, they have 3 games that should be winnable, as we mentioned last time: YDE, MTA, and Rambam. And those are 3 tough games. Of course, all games are tough. I mean, the real challenges. Playing DRS, Vitz, Motzai, Shabbos. 8:45 p.m. Tune in if you can. This is a big game. DRS, obviously, somehow good at every sport. How? I don't know. I mean, we're actually pretty good at every sport, but whatever. Point still remains.
The TABC of the 5 downs.
Exactly.
I looked at their results so far, and they haven't looked like typical DRS worthy results, if that makes any sense.
No, you're
They
completely
lost
right.
They are at home 4-2.
This is not our team that TBC was winning 2-0 on.
Right.
And my personal belief is that we should have won that game. Of course.
Right.
Again, sloppiness lost us that game.
I would say before the season started, this is a game that we looked at as a true toss-up because it's at TABC. When these teams actually met last year in JV, TABC was out to a quick 2-0 lead. And they unfortunately couldn't hold on, and they lost 3-2. But I think, obviously this is a must-win game. I think every game should be considered now a must-win game for this team. But now they're probably going to have to win 1 or 2 games that they thought that they weren't going to win before the season started, because you lost to Hafter, which maybe you thought was one of those games on the winnable side, and now that's gone and evaporated out of thin air. So I think you're looking at the DRS home game, the SAR away game, and the Frisch away game, and you're thinking 2 out of 3 could be good enough. 3 out of 3 gets us to the playoff spot.
Exactly. These are
The belief with this team right now, I've spoken with a few players. The belief of this team is that they are going to make the playoffs, that they're good enough to make the playoffs. And they probably should have beaten SAR. They blew a 2-0 lead. And the DRS game, they have to win the DRS game. The only tricky part is that they have to beat SAR and Frisch, which I think they can do both, but they have to go on the road and do it. They're not at home this time, which is a big factor because you don't have the pit behind you. Not that the pit shows up in a JV game anyway.
Exactly. But the point there was for the first game, actually. There was actually a small pit.
Right, but there was a varsity game that followed after. Oh, you're talking about the home game last week.
Yeah, the first game actually had a small pit. Not massive.
The varsity guys show up because Mo Fuchs and Coach Mo encourages them to turn up and support their younger brothers.
Exactly. But these are games that TBC would probably be underdogs in. They were tied against Frisch in the 3rd period. They were winning 2-0, got that hot start against SAR. If they won those 2 games, or at least won one of them, how much different would this team be looking? That was a rhetorical question. The point is that now they blew those opportunities. Now they have to do it on a much harder must-win games now. When they played those 2 games, they were not must-win. Now they have to do it on the road in these 2 tough environments. And these are the 2 teams that are obviously, SAR obviously not the same team as last year, but still a good team.
They're also, it's kind of crazy. They're going to know what their fate is well before winter break.
Exactly. I mean, if they lose against DRS, it's all, obviously not over, but
it'll be close to over.
It's looking bleak. They would need to win out for a shot. If they win out, I would say there's a shot. But again, after Motzei Shabbos, they play DRS. Wednesday, they play MTA at TABC. Last time they went to MTA, went to the Dead, blew them around 7-0. It really looked incredible. And then they're going at YDE, who is...
I would not underestimate YDE. They lost it. When YDE came to TABC last year, they won.
Exactly. I was going to say, last year they shocked TABC.
It was the last game of the season.
Right, but also YDE, they're tough, they're physical. And I think from everything I've heard, that gym in Brooklyn is not easy. And also the trip is not easy, just getting there to play the game.
Exactly.
Yeah, when we had to play there in softball, it was not an easy trip. It's like a long, boring
But you guys won both games.
Sir, thanks to Ellie Hochberg. Great defensive play.
Back in the playoffs. That was my legacy game. That was my legacy game. We'll talk about it more.
You went out on a high note too because you didn't play in the playoff game, and that sucks.
Exactly.
And then I went 3 for 4 against the first. Who do we play first? NDY.
We'll
I
reminisce
went 3 for
more
4.
once it's softball season, which I'm looking forward to. Hopefully, I'm at the team this year again. But that will really wrap things
Wait, this
up.
year on the softball team, we're gonna do the podcast on the bench.
Of course, we can record some clips. But so that I think that'll wrap it up for JV hockey. No games are played, but a massive week coming up. Massive 9 days between the 7th and the 16th. And moving on to the final team, the team that just came off a massive win. It's the varsity hockey team. They have played 2 games this past week. They shut out Ramaz 4-0, and then they beat Frisch 7-0. Again, I think we all know what the answer is going to be, but who has really stood out these past 2 games? I think we all know who the 2 answers are going to be, but
I think it's actually great that they won so convincingly tonight because I think maybe there were some talks about, only being Ramaz 4-0, like, oh, maybe this team isn't as amazing as we thought. But now you go into tonight and you mercy your neighborhood rivals, who had won 5 straight since we beat them at Frisch. So tonight was a great night. I think I think I mentioned this in the post-game interview on TBC TV. I'll say it again. I think Aria Simon is the best defenseman in the league. He scored 4 tonight. Shai Forgash is averaging a shutout in between the pipes. Shai Forgash, co-MVPs with Aiden Rousman in that JV hockey championship run. And he's on course to do it again. The team is flying right now. I expect them to continue to fly with road games coming up at MTA and Kushner. And then they'll go into that big game against DRS. But, people always like to talk about the DRS game being so crucial and so big.
It's a morale game.
It's a morale game. It really has no impact on the standings or seeding because you're going to have the top team out of one conference and the other top team out of the other conference. The more important game that people need to pay attention to in terms of seeding is the rematch at SAR.
Exactly. But I think the DRS game is just because DRS is considered the other favorite of TABC.
Yes, it's a 5 towns TNET thing. It's a storyline kind of thing,
Exactly.
And I don't think it was good by any stretch that while it had no impact on the seeding or where the championship game was going to be, losing 5-0 at DRS last year was not good. I'm sure the guys are thinking about it
exactly
as they go into the matchup this year, and I'm sure they still have the championship fresh in their minds.
Yeah, but playing in DRS is like playing in TABC. The fan base is probably the second best, if not the best fan base in the whole Yeshiva League behind maybe TABC. So DRS and TABC are like the same exact score, both really good at hockey and both really hard to win in their own stadium.
I mean, yes.
Let me clarify sports.
DRS is the TABC of the 5 towns, and TABC is the DRS of Bergen County.
It's like Yankees, Dodgers, and Celtics, Lakers. It's that type of run. They always face each other in the championship.
Right. And there's a high likelihood we could be seeing double TABC DRS finals this year.
In basketball, too. Has that ever happened in basketball? You ever gone to TABC DRS basketball championship?
No. The closest, I think, was DRS TABC varsity basketball semifinals. Zevi Samet went off, and then the championship game wasn't played because of COVID.
Kind of hoping that DRS is not in the championship so we can play in DRS in the championship game.
No, the varsity basketball championships at Yeshiva.
No, hockey.
Oh, hockey. We'll see if Lawrence Middle School's ready.
I wonder if they'd be.
I don't know. It hasn't been ready for the last.
They haven't been hosted. They haven't hosted.
I mean, listen. We love if it's DRS because then we don't have to we don't have to make a long trip, assuming it'll be at Frisch.
Yeah, gonna hinder the pit. Big week for varsity hockey. 2 winnable games. Not really. It's a big week. 2 games this team should have won, as you mentioned already. At MTA, at Kushner, as you mentioned. Boy, does Kushner wish they had Aria Simon now. Maybe even Noam Simon has a goal of the season. And then hopefully if we don't record before, hopefully we will, but in 2 weeks from tonight, they're playing home against DRS in a triple header. So it's going to be a massive game.
Activities is planning something that night, like a big winter classic.
It's going to be great. Did we have one last year? I don't.
I think we had. I think
Yeah, they
last,
played Or and they played MTA. Not MTA. They played Or and
I thought last night we had like a banner night. We had like a big event before the.
they played Or and DRS. That's what it was.
But I thought it was only connected to DRS, the basketball game. I don't know.
I don't really remember, honestly. Last year was crazy for me, if you know. I don't perfectly remember, so I'm leaving it up to you guys.
Oh no, it wasn't Or. It was MTA. It was MTA.
Any notes about wrestling, track, any sports?
Cross country season's over, but track
Oh,
will resume sometime in March, April when the weather gets better. Hoping
Wrestling's over already.
Track championship.
No, track.
Not over. Track is track is on break right now. Wrestling is 2-0. They were 2-0 the last time we recorded a show. They'll have 2 matches next week. One is against a public school, and the other match is against Kushner. And
but a little known stat: if you go to TABC TV's website, the schedule is there for all games and practices. If you want to see all TABC games,
not ice hockey though. J. Lou doesn't acknowledge them yet.
Oh really? I thought I saw a game.
Until they get a win.
There was like some sort of deal behind the scenes.
I thought I saw them there recently, but I guess not.
You got to meet the J. Lou standard of what gets on the screen and what doesn't get on the screen.
I guess you got to get a first win.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I'm pretty sure it is. I see. Sunday night they're playing versus Harlem at McKay. So I think J. Lou was.
We'll see it. We'll see if the Harlem Globetrotters show up.
Yeah. But just to say, Sunday is going to be, I guess, 3 games on Sunday at MTA for varsity hockey, at Or varsity basketball, and ice hockey. So just giving a shout out to the TABC TV website. We have club head here, co-club head, I should say, Noah Kessler. Thank you all so much.
Jonathan Kaplan doesn't ditch the game tonight, so he didn't have to clean up. So I just want to point that out there.
But I cleaned up.
He'll set up Saturday night. Oh no, wait, he won't come to the game.
What?
He's a junior, so he won't come Saturday night.
Oh yeah. See, I take better care of TABC TV than he does.
Okay. We can settle this beef on the side.
OG, can we get a soccer preview for this year since you're the coach?
Oh yeah, soccer.
I haven't even assembled my roster yet. I still have second cut.
Second cut coming up. We can squash this Jonathan Kaplan, Noah Kessler beef on the podcast maybe one day. Thank you all so much for listening. It's going to be a longer podcast, nearly 40 minutes. Look forward to seeing you all next week. Thank you so much for Tani, Stein, Sam Haberman joining, and have a great week, guys.
Let's go Storm.
And in the words of the great Jonathan Kaplan, Rousman to Simon, come Boslo, baby, come Boslo.